it's doing something.
It says I'm live. And it says we have an excellent connection. Can you still hear me, Kevin?
I can hear you perfectly. Yeah. Yeah,
okay,
can you hear
cool.
me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, there we are. Okay. Now
awesome.
I just have to. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. Okay, cool. We are live. Yeah, so let's try a couple things here. Let's see if I pin this video. That does nothing.
Well, it made you the big picture.
It makes me the big picture, but I need to be the big picture down
I'm going to prop this
here.
up and see if I can find a good use for this Gems of the Equinox. There we go.
I mean, we don't have any viewers yet, so it's cool if everything's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, I just wanted to give a baby a child seat to my computer. Actually, I might do another one.
I can't tell how far behind the video is.
It usually has a pretty good delay.
Yeah.
From what I've noticed. But
I guess I could do a thing like wave my hand in the air. Well, I mean, there's Kevin getting up just as Kevin gets back.
All right.
Oof, I'm confused.
So now we got Dracula under there too.
Vortex.
So appropriately, I added Dracula under my computer, so it's now a little bit better view.
Oh, and there I just waved my hand on the live stream. Okay, cool. We do have people joining now. So greetings, everybody. There is a delay, which is going to be slightly confusing to me. But I'm going to do our introduction. Is everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, ready.
Welcome everybody to the Arnemancy and Cryptic Cocktails Halloween cocktail live stream extravaganza. With us tonight, with me tonight, here tonight is me, Reverend Erik, our well-collared, well-coiffed friend, Kevin Carlow from Cryptic Cocktails.
Everybody.
And over there behind the bartending camera is bartender Nate. So hopefully
Reverend bartender Nate.
Yeah, you know, if I were better at configuring Zoom, which I know there's a way to turn off those little name bars at the bottom, but you know, I'm happy that I got OBS to work. I feel like I've already done some magic. So now that we're live and doing stuff, hi, Kevin.
Hi, Reverend Erik. Thank you for having me on.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, it's our favorite time of year, I'm sure, for a lot of people out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's a good time of year for cocktails. So can you tell us like a little bit about Cryptic Cocktails? Like, what are you doing over there with Cryptic Cocktails?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny with Cryptic Cocktails. The origin of it was I wanted to go around because there's so many like haunted bars and like cool like stories about old haunted restaurants in Boston where I'm from. And so I wanted to like explore them and like maybe like find out about hauntings and like work in some occult stuff because, you know, I've been a tarot card reader on and off since I was in high school. And I've always been interested in, you know, the paranormal and magic and the occult and all that. So that was the original idea. And then lo and behold, a few years later, I became a cocktail writer professionally, you know, part-time. It's not my full-time paying gig, but I've been doing that for about 6 years. And so the Cryptic Cocktails handle just kind of stuck. My friend Shelly came up with it one night at a bar in Boston called Dirty Nelly's, and she'll never let me forget that she came up with it. And so yeah, I've just been using that as kind of an all-purpose, here's what I'm doing at any given time kind of handle. Definitely, it's transitioned a bit over the years. It used to be more of a cocktail focused thing, and then it became kind of now it's sort of somewhere between like a memoirs, some cocktail recipes, some tarot and mysticism stuff, kind of whatever I'm into at the time.
Well, that sounds pretty awesome. And so you basically have a blog and a YouTube channel.
Yeah, the YouTube channel is brand new. I hope some of the people out there can check it out. I'm video editing skills. My technological skills aren't great, but I did use part of the lockdown to learn Final Cut Pro and get acquainted with a camera and a microphone. So I'm coming along, and so it's I'll have a third video out this week, and the first two. First one was on the Ozzy Osbourne song "Mr. Crowley," and just to annoy the Thelemites out there and not say Crowley. So yeah,
cool.
it was so hard doing that video because I always say Crowley because I've read a billion Aleister Crowley things over the years, and I just kept having to go back the song Mr. Crowley, and I'm like, no, it's Mr. Crowley, you know. But so I did that one, and then I did one on one of my favorite horror movies, Candyman, which I know everybody's like super into right now. I'm going to review the new one, I think, coming up, and it's just going to be a place where I can talk about like spooky pop culture stuff without getting like, I love like listening to shows like yours and where people come on that are like super erudite, and they're I love nerding out with like the scholarly stuff, but you know, it's kind of fun just to get like kind of pop culture with it and just do a little 5-minute video where I don't get too deep on the subjects.
That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I checked out your Mr. Crowley video and I thought it was excellent.
Well, thank you very much.
I didn't check out your Candyman stuff because I haven't seen Candyman. In fact, don't really watch a lot of horror films. Okay, so tonight you basically picked out some spooky sounding cocktails for in an attempt to kill me tonight.
Yes,
apparently that's what bartender Nate has figured out. Like, as you guys can see here at bartender Nate's table, it is a terrifying concoction. So when Kevin and I were talking about doing this, I was sort of like, okay, yeah, give me the recipes. I will go and get some ingredients. And so I went to the liquor store. I want to thank, by the way, my good friend Charlie, who acted as my chauffeur on that shopping day and took me to the liquor store and helped me haul home like $100,000 worth of liquor. Like there were no repeat ingredients.
That's
except limes, I think. So I'm excited about all of these. That's going to be pretty fun. But before we get started, I do have a couple of announcements. First, I want to wish happy birthday to my good friend Sheila, who is turning, of course, probably 29 on Halloween. And then also happy birthday to God of Worms. I don't know what his real name is, but it's his birthday today. He's a participant at the Hermetic Agora Discord server. And so happy birthday, God of Worms, and happy birthday, Sheila. And then also, I got some listener mail. Well, at least I'm assuming it's listener mail. It certainly sounds spooky. The prophecy unsealed in a world of confusion. It's got these cool monsters on it. You can see, I think there's like a lion with wings. There's a 3-headed leopard with 4 wings. There's some sort of, I don't know, what is that? A velociraptor over here.
I don't remember the velociraptors from the Book of Revelations, but
are you sure? I think it was in one of the epistles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So but yeah, it looks. Unfortunately, we missed all of it. There's like one event tonight, Friday, October 29th at 7 p.m. They're going to talk about the issue that divides the world, which I assume is Jesus. Yes, and then tomorrow at 7 p.m. they're going to have a talk when grace becomes a disgrace, which sounds like a Discord chat server to me. But yeah, anyhow, I got this in the mail and I was sort of like, oh, just in time for my live stream, I will make sure to tell everybody that the prophecy has been unsealed in a world of confusion.
I just got a little Homer Simpson thing there with the Jesus thing. Jesus, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
So I think, with the difficult business out of the way, with the announcements done, do you have any announcements on your end, by the way? Like any?
Let's see. Well, I guess just, personally, for industry wise, I'm cutting back a little bit on bartending, and I'm starting a little oyster purveying company with my friend who owns a wine bar.
Ooh,
so yeah,
that sounds fun.
So we just started doing pop-ups. I'll have a separate thing for that. I mean, it's going to be in the Palm Springs area, but you never know if anybody's in Southern California. So I'm looking forward to having cocktails be more fun for me and less of something I do 60 hours a week. So I would expect some more cocktail content coming out. I would expect more original cocktails on my end coming out on the blog.
And are you going to be doing some of those awesome oyster shooter shots, like, you know, where you take the oyster shooter and you mix in some habanero and whiskey and call it a flaming oyster, whatever, you know?
We don't have a liquor license, but we can do it with it's really good with champagne. You pour a little champagne on top.
Really, champagne on an oyster? Okay,
that is luxury. That is absolute luxury.
Nate, do we have those ingredients?
No.
Damn it.
Neither champagne or oysters.
Damn it. So prepared. Okay, well then let's get into the first recipe, the El Diablo.
Yes. El Diablo.
I'm gonna switch my camera over to bartender Nate and to the recipe. Kevin, where did this drink come from and why did you pick it?
So, I mean, obviously the name is really great for Halloween, El Diablo or the Devil.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally called the Mexican El Diablo, and it was invented, or at least first written about by a gentleman named Trader Vic Bergeron. So a lot of you have probably heard of Trader Vic. Maybe if you've heard the song Werewolves of London, they mention it. And this is one of those drinks that I really like because it's so simple. You can make it at home with very few ingredients. All you really need is tequila, or some people like mezcal for it. Some people do a mix. I've done that before. And a good ginger beer and some lime juice and a little creme de cassis, and you're in business. And it's just one of these drinks. It's got this beautiful kind of like crimson red color, and that rich berry adds like kind of an earthy, like fruity sweetness. And then the lime juice kind of contrasts that. The ginger beer adds that gingery pungent note, and then tequila gives you all that great like black pepper and zing. So yeah, just a really fun one. And one of the few original tiki drinks that's made with tequila.
Oh yeah. Actually, that's something that you know, when Nate and I were going over the ingredients and he was helping me with my shopping list, which I bought cheaper versions of everything. He you know, Nate's shopping list was much more expensive than I could afford. But that's one of the things he was like, oh yeah, I've looked this recipe up in a number of books and it all just says tequila. It doesn't say what kind. So what did I get, Nate? What is my tequila?
You got the Pedra Azul.
Pedra Azul.
It's a 100% agave reposado.
I mean, it sounds delicious.
And he sprung for the really classy du Bonchet creme de cassis, which is made in Kentucky.
Oh yeah, that's definitely like the Kentucky, you know, everybody knows Kentucky is well known for their blackcurrants. So one of the things that I wanted to do when we did these cocktails, so like, you know, you, Kevin, kind of talk about like the intersection of cocktail mixing and alchemy and sort of like enjoying cocktail mixing as that sort of thing. So I was sort of thinking like looking at the ingredients and sort of finding their occult significance, because, you know, for those in the audience who might not know this, almost everything in the world, so like according to this sort of like law of association, law of correspondences, everything in the world receives these influences from the stars and influences according to like all these ancient occult traditions. Of course, the big problem with it is if you have ingredients that are new, like new world ingredients, you're going to have a difficult time finding correspondences. And the El Diablo has blackcurrants, which, oh my God, that sounds incredible. So blackcurrants, which weren't cultivated until the end of the 17th century, and blue agave, which is a New World plant that Europeans didn't come across until the, you know, until after we discovered the New World. I love the sound. So that's the ginger beer, I believe.
Yep, that is a ginger beer.
Cock and bull. Yeah, that's the fanciest thing we got.
Oh, yeah, cock and bulls gets the job done. I've used it before.
So what I looked at with the blackcurrants instead, so Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, I have his books behind me. Nobody can see them because we're watching Nate. So I looked in Agrippa, and he sort of talks about, you know, you mentioned Crowley earlier, Crowley. And one of the books he's famous for is 777, which is kind of a catalog of correspondences. You go through there and there are charts and charts and charts. And all of these charts sort of tell you, you know, which astrological sign is associated with which berry and which cut of meat and which hangnail and like all of these things. But Agrippa tells you that maybe those sorts of charts aren't really what you want. What you want instead is to kind of look at the characteristics of a thing and find out how those characteristics are associated. So when I looked at this, the El Diablo, like, first of all, its name, sort of talks about something sinful and dark. I thought the blackness of the creme de cassis would associate it with Saturn, but it's also very sweet, which makes me think of Venus. And then tequila, which makes you want to fight, is Mars. So I would say that this is a drink that may be malefic.
I would say this is definitely a Marshall drink for sure.
Ooh.
It is delicious to me.
Well, let's give the viewers a good look at it. It's not, it doesn't come out very dark. So the creme de cassis really kind of
stir it a little bit there.
Okay.
Yeah, if you stir it up a little bit, it looks like it's sitting on the bottom.
Yeah. And creme de cassis is kind of a heavier spirit, so it has a tendency to settle out to begin with.
I mean,
this is
it looks refreshing.
So
I think if it were in a Collins glass, which is a little thinner,
Yeah.
with a little bit more cassis, you'd be able to see the redness a little bit more.
Oh my God, I love this drink.
Not great.
Oh my God. It is, I mean, I guess I associate tequila with kind of a harshness, right? Like tequila can be a little,
Sure.
Hey, Paul. Paul Allen is online, and he says we have an impressive array of bottles. And yeah, thank you, Paul. It's good to see you. So anyhow, I mean, it kind of comes out pink.
Yeah, it definitely,
which is definitely Venus colored.
Well, I think if you used a different, like some of the cassis that are out there are going to have a little bit more intense. They're almost black when you pour them, which definitely turns the drink a little bit redder.
Yeah, I was worried about this one primarily because the creme de cassis smells gross.
Yeah, creme de cassis is a really funky flavor.
Yeah,
and every drink I put it in, I'm like, all right, this was a mistake, but it does really well with tequila. And there's a drink with rye that I really like, where you use lime juice and rye and cassis, and that works really well as well. I forget what that one's called. I think my friend actually made it up, so I'm not going to say a name and then have you go look for it somewhere. But
we can name it. I mean, I guess that's how legends are made, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, the legend. There we go.
Legend. There you go.
Okay.
The legend of cassis.
So anyhow, I want to describe a little bit about the flavors that I'm getting here, because the ginger ale, all of the harshness in all of these, like the funk and the cassis kind of fades into the background. The kind of like fighting fire of the tequila is kind of in the background. And even the ginger ale, like, cock and bull ginger ale, I had a whole one earlier today, and that stuff like burns.
Oh yeah.
In your throat, and it reminds you that you just had ginger beer. But all of it's kind of mellowed and sitting together and happy. Like, I want to drink this on a really hot summer day. I feel like, should we turn the heat up in the room?
Yeah.
Or just come down here where it was back in the 90s again today.
Yeah.
I got so used to sleeping with my windows open and having the breeze blow through all day now. Oh, the troubles of living in Palm Springs. It's so
it sounds like torture. Yeah, I see you there in your Hawaiian shirt with it.
Yeah. I don't wear this every day. I just want everybody to know this. This is sort of a Magnum PI Halloween costume.
So let's head over to bartender Nate and see what he thinks of his creation. Nate, what are you doing over there? How's it feeling to you?
It's feeling good. I really like the idea of putting the cock and bull in there. That was a great idea. It adds kind of a heat to it, which is what I was kind of hoping that would do. Being called the El Diablo, kind of give it a little bit of a lingering warmth on the tongue and the palate. The tequila, I would have probably gotten a little different one now, having tasted it, but it's still delicious. And I even think this could even maybe do with the mezcal and still be a pretty awesome drink on that.
So tell me a little bit about the tequila. What do you mean when you tasted it? You were like, uh-oh.
Well, I think I would have gone with a stronger flavored tequila than the one we got.
Oh, okay. So you actually do think, because like mezcal can be pretty hairy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I'm a huge fan of mezcal and scotch, so to me, I like the punch in the face that it gives to a drink. And so I think that a mezcal would have been a good possibility also for it. And then I would have gone with something that maybe was aged a little bit longer if I was going to do just a regular tequila.
So I'll give away some industry secrets here, and hopefully, if they're listening in later, they won't kill me. But my friends Dave and Michelle used to be my bar managers. We would do a mix of tequila. We would do about a half an ounce of mezcal mixed in, and then they also made their own ginger beer. And I can't give the recipe away, unfortunately. They would kill me. But basically, if you can juice your own fresh ginger, and I won't give you the proportions, but add some demerara sugar and some lemon juice, and you can get one of those EC carbonators. It's you think Cock and Bull will rip the lining off the top of your mouth. This stuff was just intense.
Nice.
I used to have it if I had a hangover or an upset stomach. I would come in. First thing I did when I showed up, one of those, and just knock it down, and about 10 minutes later, it's just you start seeing little birds go around your head.
We got some more guests. We have Rafa Martinelli. Hi, Rafa. He says the agave plant is pretty awesome and how it grows a super tall stem after a few years. Yeah. Have you ever seen it? Yes, I actually have an agave plant in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And last year during the pandemic, it bloomed, which I guess it only does like once every 20 years, especially in Portland's cold climate. And it was during the period of greatest lockdown, and this blooming agave in my neighborhood was drawing so many people, so many onlookers, that they actually had to put signs out and be like, please practice social distancing around the blooming agave.
It's like here we're just like, oh, another agave is in bloom. Yeah, they call it the century plant sometimes. It's not actually 100 years, but it's a long time.
I was pretty impressed by it. It's pretty cool.
Well, it's kind of related to an aloe too, so you could always get that kind of correspondence.
I mean, this is definitely good enough to spread all over your body.
I'm enjoying the world's tiniest glass of bitters.
That is
I just had to bring this out because I thought it was the funniest little thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's a cordialito.
It is. It's literally like, safe for children.
Yeah. For kids. And also our good friend Heather is watching, and she says hi with what looks like 4 or 5 eyes. Hi, Heather.
Oh, I thought you meant like eyes. Like,
well, yes. Yeah, Rafa, the agave is lonely. It honestly, like, it was famous. It made the news when it bloomed in Portland.
It kind of looks like a Dr. Seuss plant or something, like when it blooms.
Does not look real. Yeah. I would say that and also, I mean, it's definitely not native to Oregon and should not survive well in our climate. Like it is cold and wet up here most of the year. So it was surprising to me that happened. Okay, well, I guess it's hard to, I guess after tasting one cocktail, we can't really pick a favorite yet, can we? We have to.
I don't think so yet. And I'm wondering if in the meantime, while you guys enjoy that one, maybe I'll go whip up a classic Negroni. If anybody wants to see some technique.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me grab some ice real quick. I didn't want it to melt while we were talking, but I'll grab some ice and be back in 10 seconds.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll just talk to Nate.
All right.
So Nate, how's it going over at the bartending table?
It's going pretty good. I have more cock and bull, so I've just been topping mine off.
Ooh, that sounds
so that
good.
I can hydrate in the process.
Here, get me a splash, because
there you go.
I think that's funny. I think that happened off screen for both of us.
It just basically my arm just reaching off into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this one. Like I said, I think I'll kind of, how I like to basically take a cocktail and then do like an improved version where I get really expensive, fancy ingredients. This is definitely one that I will up the ante on and try again.
I actually like a little bit of jalapeno in there too. Makes a nice. If you really want to punish yourself.
Yeah.
So, are we going to do the white Negroni today? Did you guys get the stuff for that?
We didn't. I got the stuff just for the 3 main cocktails because they, there's only so. I know nobody really likes to believe it, but I am only mortal.
Well, I just wanted to be prepared, so I figured I'd have a little bit on the 2 from the guest post, and then the 3 from the column too.
Yeah.
But also, it's just a good excuse for me to make a Negroni.
Yeah, yeah. In the show notes, I don't know. Okay, this is just me being YouTube ignorant, but I believe you can go look at the show notes, and if you do that, you will see links to both of Kevin's articles. The one that was published on the Arnemancy website, where he talks about the 2 bonus cocktails, including the white Negroni, and then the one that was published on CVI.
Oh yeah. I should probably give a shout out to our paper here. Coachella Valley Independent. So it's a local independent newspaper in the Coachella Valley, which is, for people not from California, basically Palm Springs, Palm Desert, Indio, this entire valley that stretches from the edge of the Inland Empire all the way out to the end of California, basically. So it's a lot of people. Yeah. It's over 500,000 people, full-time residents, and then for about 6 months out of the year, we get everybody from Canada, everybody from Minnesota, everybody from Oregon. All the snowbirds come down, and our population increases quite a bit. Well, so I have a lot of 80-year-old Canadians reading me. I'll put it that way.
That's my target market also.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. I'll get emails from people that are like, I love reading your article because I used to bartend back in Toronto in the 1970s. It was so much fun. And I'm like, well, I bet you did.
Anyhow, if you go to the CVI article, the Coachella Valley
Independent.
In the show notes, you will find the ingredients for the 3 cocktails that Nate and I will be attempting today.
Check it out while you're there. Get some good columns all around.
So why don't you walk us through a white Negroni? What's in a white Negroni?
Sure. So a white Negroni, first of all, I'll walk you through a regular Negroni since I have the ingredients for it. And then while I'm stirring it, we'll talk about the white Negroni. That works. So I decided to make it really, I got little baby bottles. And so the nice thing about a Negroni, whether that be a white Negroni or a classic Negroni, is it's equal parts. So it's a drink that anybody can make at home. So you have Campari, which is going to be, give it its color and most of its flavor. And so the interesting thing with Campari is a lot of its flavor comes from gentian root. And we're going to talk about gentian root a few times here probably today, but it's an alpine flowering plant that's found mostly in like the French Alps and that kind of area. And supposedly it was named after King Gentius. That's according to Pliny the Elder. And he was apparently an Albanian king. What's Albania now? And it goes back to the Egyptian papyri have records of it being used 3,000 years ago. So it's a digestive, and it helps increase your saliva. And it has a lot of other really good properties too. And then with Campari, the red color used to come from the cochineal beetle, but they got rid of that since a lot of people didn't want to, intentionally ingest insects. But if you do want the real cochineal, so it wasn't vegan for a long time actually. And you can still get things like Bruto Americano that have the real cochineal beetle in there. But I decided to go with the red dye number 5.
So I would like to mention Agrippa in his book 1, his first book of occult philosophy, says that gentian is a solar herb. So it is associated with solar in occult influences.
That would make sense. It's in a lot of yellow. It has xanthines, which are the yellow kind of dye. So it also gives color to
those the things that like Scientologists are afraid of.
Yeah, I think so. That's gentian's really it's in a lot of stuff, Angostura bitters and all sorts of other things. And then we're also going to get a little bit of sort of kind of witchy and biblical here with vermouth.
Whoa!
So
that looks like a fancy vermouth.
This is the Cochi Vermouth de Torino.
Okay.
And so this is I love Carpano Antica, and I love some of like the kind of homebrew vermouths I've had, but this one's got a little bit more bitterness. It's from the Torino area, and it's really great. And especially if you don't want as much of like a sweet cloying Negroni, it's not sponsored, yada yada. But the cool thing with vermouth is it comes from the German word for wormwood. So it people are like, oh, you can't have wormwood in the United States. I used to hear that so many times, and I'm like, there's wormwood in lots of stuff. It's just you can't have like that much wormwood in one alcohol as you could in Europe. But there was always wormwood in vermouth. It just people would freak out about it because they thought they were going to start seeing pink elephants dancing or something. So equal parts, and then gin. So we got the classic juniper.
And which gin are you using?
I got this little baby bottle of Tanqueray.
Aww.
My roommate had one of the big 175s, and we were going to do a side-by-side photo for put it online or something, because it's just so hilarious next to each other.
So one of the other books that I used for occult correspondences was John Michael Greer's Natural Magic, which yeah, it's a really excellent book, especially if you're into like herbalism and weird herbal tinctures and stuff like that. He says that juniper is a Mars-influenced berry, and that it is used for purification, protecting the virtues, and recovering stolen property.
Interesting.
So this sounds like, I think that what you're actually creating here is a very healthful and protective beverage. This should be really good for you.
I would say so. This drink is one of those really magical drinks because, first of all, it's 3 parts. It's 3 equal parts. So if you don't get enough occult significance out of that, then I don't know. You must be new here.
3 equal parts.
3, yeah.
Paul says that he's detecting a tiny theme. I'm not sure what
the tiny what?
The tiny. Yes, I get it, Paul. I'm not as slow as I look.
So you get this beautiful red color, and I usually don't strain my beautiful cocktail pitcher using the Boston Shaker, but I forgot the strainer and I don't want to leave the room again. And here we go. And so this is one of those drinks that it's based on something called the Milano Torino. So the 2 rival towns in Italy, one made vermouth and then one made Campari. And so they used to kind of battle over it. And then some bartenders started mixing the 2 together. And then for Americans, they always joke that Americans, whatever, need like soda water or something in it. So the Americano was just that with a little soda water added. And then supposedly the Count Negroni, now this is kind of dubious, but supposedly he didn't want the soda water. He wanted something stronger. So they put gin in it for him. But whatever the story is, and I've read a lot of conflicting evidence that this drink, the Negroni, existed as called something else for 50 years before the Count Negroni was born. So you never really know. But either way, it is a beautiful drink. It's got, between the juniper, the wormwood, and the gentian in there, you've got quite the brew, as it were. And the white Negroni is so it's kind of funny. I think every bartender who's been around long enough thinks they invented the white Negroni. Like I made a white Negroni once, and I was like, I am a genius, and I put it on special boards, and I'm like, yeah, try this drink I came up with. But apparently, it goes back about 20 years, which would have beat me by about 10 years. Before I came up with my own version. And supposedly a bartender in France, I'm not sure exactly where he was, but he was a British bartender, and he didn't have Campari and he didn't have vermouth, which seems weird, but he did have Suze, which is a gentian root bitter, which would be...
Yeah. You mentioned that in your article. That sounded like an interesting beverage. I have never tried it.
Suze is great. It looks like Red Bull or like hangover pee. Like it is that like weird kind of yellow grossness. So if you pour Suze on its own, it looks kind of nasty. But if you add some soda water to it and a slice of lemon in there, it's beautiful.
I just realized I left some things open that are making noises on my computer that I have to go close. Okay. All right. I am. Okay, cool. I'm good. Okay, well, so how does it taste? Your Negroni. I mean, you fabulous. Don't have a white Negroni. You have a pink Negroni.
I do have, classic Negroni. They're actually very similar.
Let's see it. Show the camera. Ooh.
Nice. So I did the one big ice cube and, the fancy bartender peel.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering, Nate, do you want to say anything about the ice we're using tonight?
That's tap water. When I was asking Erik, I was like, so you did use purified water for the ice, right? And he's like, no, Portland tap water should be good enough. And I was like, it's fine. I guess we can just taste that instead of the actual cocktail.
That deserved the cat. I think that maybe it's time for us to make our second cocktail. The Corpse Reviver #2.
Yes.
Which I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a little howl. I like my sound effects. I hope people at home are enjoying those. So let's I guess I better pop the recipe up on the screen. So here is the Corpse Reviver #2. So Kevin, tell us, where did this beverage come from, and Is it as dangerous as it looks?
It is quite dangerous. It is quite dangerous. So corpse revivers themselves, as a name for a drink, it was one of the classes of, they used to call them eye openers, or we'd call them like hair of the dog or hangover cure these days. But so there were drinks called corpse revivers before this. There are actually 3 known ones that are like that you can actually look up. There's probably more over the years, but the first one is like a kind of a brandy and Calvados and vermouth thing, and it's not something I'd want to drink for breakfast. And then this one was invented a little bit later at the Savoy Hotel, which is over in England. And they have a famous cocktail book from the 1930s. The guy who wrote it, Harry Craddock. So he doesn't give a lot of history on where he got his cocktails. You would basically think he invented, 350 cocktails himself. But the truth is they had a lot of bartenders working at the Savoy, and one particular that's really well known, without digressing, Ada Coleman, who's a really famous female bartender. And he does give her credit for another drink that I'll get into at a different time. But he was the one, as far as we know, that came up with this Corpse Reviver #2. And it's a beautiful breakfast drink. He actually recommends, I believe the words were, to be served before 11 a.m. or whenever steam and energy are required. And then
I definitely feel like I could use a little bit of steam and energy right now. Okay, so the ingredients here, we've got gin. We've already talked a little bit about gin. And the associations of juniper. The gin we're using is Broker's, which Nate kind of made a face at when I mentioned, but I happen to really like Broker's. And it's not just because it comes with a tiny little plastic bowler hat. I think it's it's a pretty solid dry London dry gin that, you can do a lot of stuff with.
I would agree, but as a many years bartender and occasional bar manager, those damn little hats, when you're using it 2 cases of it a week, you end up with so many of those. I don't know how many times I've heard me or one of my coworkers be like, stop sending me these stupid freaking hats. It's like, it's kind of cute at first. You're like, put it on your
everybody at home hopefully just saw the fancy part where Nate is absinthe spritzer. But yeah, I'll do another one. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I gotta turn the volume down when he's shaking. Okay. So also in this are our triple sec, and what did we use? We didn't use Kina Lillet. We used something else. What was it, Nate?
The Cochi Americano.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Which
great substitute.
Yeah, but all of the Kina Lillet, the Cochi Americano, those are all bitter aperitifs that are flavored with quinine. So we'll talk about that in a second too. Triple sec is an orange-based liqueur that's made by macerating sun-dried orange skins that are soaked in booze and then redistilled, and it sounds like a beautiful, incredibly fragrant way to to make a beverage. And orange, all citruses are associated with solar power, the sun. Ooh man, this looks so fancy.
This is one of those cocktails that I never get sick of making for people. It doesn't matter if I did a program at a hotel the last year where I put it on the brunch menu, and people were sucking them down at 9:30 in the morning, and then I've also served them to people at 1 o'clock in the morning too, and it doesn't matter. It's still a great drink.
Ooh, that sounds really good. And ooh, hold on. I'm just gonna pop over. Oh yeah, I'm gonna turn Nate's mic down because he's gonna shake again. And then let's just pop over to me. So the smell off of this thing. Hoo-ah! You guys probably want to.
Have you had this drink before?
I have had. There's a Corpse Reviver that has Fernet Branca in it, and I've had that before.
That must be a newer invention.
Wait, maybe it's not a Corpse Reviver.
It is a Corpse Reviver. It was one.
You might be thinking of a Hanky Panky.
But no, it's actually a Corpse Reviver. It's called the Savoy Corpse Reviver, and it was in one of their manuals. And basically, it's a Fernet-based Corpse Reviver.
Oh, interesting. It's not in my copy. I didn't see that in my copy, but
if you also get the bartender's handshake book, which is all about making Fernet cocktails, it's listed in there as one of the Corpse Revivers.
I'll have to check that out.
This is an experience. This is, it has, I don't know how to describe this. there's like, imagine you're walking down a dark alley and you get mugged by an orange. There's
Sounds
a
about
lot
right.
of that in there. There's this weird bitterness that does actually remind me of quinine flavors, like from tonic water and stuff, which must be the Coche Americana. And I have to say, I mean, maybe there's gin lurking in there, but I feel like it washed over my tongue like a horde of invading Mongols, leaving little orange candies behind.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Kind of I mean, this would wake me the hell up. It reminds me in Wooster and Jeeves, where I think it's the first episode of the TV show where Wooster comes home and he's had like a whole night of it, and Jeeves makes him this really strange drink that has like, you know, Worcestershire sauce and a raw egg and brandy and all this weird stuff in it and bitters, and makes Wooster drink it in one drink, and he sputters and makes all these noises, and all of a sudden he's as good as new. That's what this
it's called the what's that drink called? The Half Moon, or that's a British drink, and I've made it for people before, and it's famously it was also in one of the Agatha Christie movies. The person who died was mentioned as having enjoyed those cocktails, and I'm like, who enjoys that?
This drink feels like it's trying to cure me of a disease that I do not have yet.
It's the cure is worse than the disease.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it though. I mean, it's just intense. Like, I'm used to, you know, things in a martini glass like this. I am used to having like them be very cold and having like some interesting aromatics that come through, but mostly booze flavor. And in this, the booze flavor, like there is some, but it's surprisingly muted compared to the sweetness and the bitterness and the herbal oddness wafting around within it.
I'm continuously impressed by how juniper, when you use gin in cocktails, juniper is so intense. When you drink gin, you're like, whoa, juniper. But when you mix it in with other strong flavors, all of a sudden it's, you know, instead of being the guy playing drums by himself, he's in a band now. You know, it's like all of a sudden it's like you don't even taste the juniper anymore. You just get that like that full effect. You want to talk cinchona a little bit, or
what's that?
Do you want to talk about the cinchona a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, that's a pretty interesting one. So cinchona is a bark or a tree, the bark of which is used to treat malaria, or it has been used to treat malaria since the late 17th century. It is a New World tree from South America, and it was used by South American cultures before European contact as a medicinal herb, kind of as a fever reducer. So malaria, of course, was a New World disease, and we brought it over and made everything worse, which is just a great thing that Europeans are good at, I guess. So it's sort of one of the interesting things about it is the quinine that they extracted from the cinchona bark was used to treat malaria. I think still might be used to treat malaria, but so since it's a New World herb, of course, there isn't really a planetary correspondence from the classical works. However, I was looking at pictures of it. It's green with purple flowers, and it's traveled all over the world, and it's medicinal. So I was thinking Mercury would be the perfect planet to associate with cinchona. I'm not saying this right.
You can say it multiple ways. I've had people tell me like it just depends on the language you're using.
Yeah. So what do you know about it? Did I cover everything, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I know that the toxicity dose and the medicinal dose are terribly close to each other. Oops. But you know, the French and the British were given rations of it, the soldiers and the people working on construction projects and everything. But especially the soldiers were given their customary, drink per day. And so the British, of course, wanted to have tonic water for their gin instead of, getting some kind of aperitif wine. But the French didn't want to drink a gin and tonic. They wanted to drink their classic wine. So they just threw the cinchona into the wine. And at first everybody hated it. And then by the time they got home from war, soldiers started wanting it, like their palate had adjusted to that bitter flavor. So they responded, and the companies started putting out things like beer is one of the most popular, BYRHH. But there's a few other.
BYRHH?
Yeah.
And
It's
what is
pronounced
that?
beer.
And it was like a wine with the
One end. Yep, with the cinchona bar.
Okay.
And then so Kina was another one. And there were, there are quite a few of them. Dubonnet. There's a lot of them out there that are quinine bark related.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of times when I think of bitter wine, I think of wine that's infused with wormwood, like vermouth. So
Sure.
It's interesting that there's other, things that I'm watching Nate put away the bottles that he's used, because we have set up on a card table, and when we put all the bottles on top, it started to sag in the middle, and I was like, "Ooh, that doesn't look good." He's like, "How about this? As I finish using the bottles, I will put them away." But of course, our final drink, the one that is probably going to kill everybody in the room, has the most bottles associated with it.
All the bottles.
Yes.
All the bottles.
Oh, I did want to mention, because I was talking to somebody about this online, but it was this great, I call it the Great Cinchona debacle of 2012 in Boston.
Yeah.
And all of these bars started, all of a sudden, like homemade gin and tonic started showing up on all these menus. And it was a lot of like the cool cocktail bars of Boston. And my friends were telling me, they're like, yeah, I know. Like, so these are bars I went to fairly often. They're like, oh, have you been in today? Yeah, they're doing their own gin and tonics at this place. They're doing their own gin and tonics at that place. So I'd go around to these places, and I would order it. It'd be right in the menu. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're out of it. We can't make it for you. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Didn't you just put on the menu? Like, yeah, we can't make it for you. And so it turns out everybody was getting sick because people were just taking like a teaspoon of cinchona bark with some syrup and some club soda and some gin. And so they were drinking basically like a dose that would make you very sick, like an anti-malarial dose. And I'm not even sure where they got the cinchona bark, because it's kind of regulated. And yeah, so I guess I don't know anybody who got sick, but judging by how fast it went off the menu at like 4 different bars, I'm guessing there was a huge problem with it. It never reappeared on any menu ever again.
Oof. That yeah, I mean, I guess I could see Portland bars totally doing that.
Well, we had a drink at my menu back in Western Mass. It was my bar manager / coworker's drink. And it was vodka, like Tito's vodka or something, that was infused with Dutch shag tobacco, just handfuls of it, just left in there.
You can't do that.
I know.
That'll just straight up kill you. Like they used to poison people that way. That was
So
an assassination method.
I warned him against it, and people were coming in and drinking like 3 of these cocktails. That wasn't the main ingredient. There was like a half an ounce of that added to like rye whiskey. And guys would come in and they drink like 3 of them, and they're high as a kite. And I'd be like, do you smoke? Like, are you comfortable with nicotine? And they're like, no, I feel great. I'll have another one. I'm like, I am not giving you another one. The drink was on the menu for like 2 years. It was really popular.
I've had nicotine poisoning before, and it is the worst feeling I've ever had. I get
nicotine poisoning from one cigar. So yeah.
I got nicotine poisoning from my first cigar, and then I got nicotine poisoning another time from smoking too many pipefuls of Gregory Peace tobacco in one night, at a smoky bar, and it was the worst feeling I've ever had. Like,
it's disgusting.
You curl around the toilet, and maybe you puke, maybe you don't, but death seems like it will be a sweet, sweet release when it finally arrives. And then, of course, I lived through it.
Well, if you've ever been nutmeg poisoned, I can guarantee you the only thing worse than tobacco poisoning is nutmeg poisoning.
I don't know that I've ever been nutmeg poisoned, but I do know that there was that time in college, I'm sure we've all had it, where people are like, oh yeah, you can get high on nutmeg.
Yep, that was exactly me. I got a vanilla milkshake. Ooh. And I just put like a tablespoon of nutmeg in, not realizing that that's practically a lethal dose. Yo. And I hallucinated so hard, and not in a good way,
right in the sort of like death needs to be coming for me right now, sort of like
catabasis. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was brutal. Yeah.
Speaking of death coming for us, Nate, bartender Nate, my dear friend, are we ready for?
We could do the zombie.
So ominous.
Ominous indeed. Look at these ingredients. Look at them. They are filled with terror and pain. This is a when I told Nate that we were making this drink, he was like, "Oh, that one's a finisher."
Oh yeah.
So okay, well, a lot of these make sense, right? Like people know what rum is. People are probably squirming uncomfortably in their seats, seeing that there's 151 in this.
Even I am.
Yes, I smelled the 151 earlier. You know, I mean, I said before that like the creme de cassis smells kind of gross. The 151 smells like something that you would use to degrease an engine.
Yeah. Carb cleaner.
Yeah, definitely. But there are a few weird things in here. First, Don's mix. Who the hell is Don?
Oh yeah,
What is he doing in our drink?
That's a good one. So Don the Beachcomber, or Don Beach as he's known, he was a really kind of interesting character. He was from Louisiana, and his real name, I had to write this down because I can never remember it, but it's Ernest Raymond Beaumont Gaunt. And he moved, yeah. So he was kind of a drifter, and he left Louisiana back in the early 20th century, and he started like kind of roaming around the West Coast, and he spent a lot of time in the islands and the Polynesia and Hawaii, places like that. He just kind of picked things up here and there, and he was kind of like a suave actor, good looking guy with a mustache, and he would appear in like films, I guess, once in a while as an extra, but he was never like a leading man or anything like that. And so he ended up opening a place, a little 3-table place on Hollywood Boulevard, and it became quite a success right away. And so then he opened up a bigger place called Don the Beachcomber, and he would change his name. So he eventually did change his name to Don the Beachcomber. And kind of an interesting tie-in with the zombie. There's actually a bar in town, a great little tiki bar called Bootlegger Tiki. Shout out. And it's a really cool haunted bar. And it's tiny. And it was originally a Don the Beachcomber location here in Palm Springs. So they're all gone. I believe there's still a couple of Trader Vic's out there scattered around, but all the Don the Beachcombers have gone the way of the zombie. But
we had a Trader Vic's in Portland up until a few years ago.
Yeah,
I think it caught on fire.
I think that was that, and like one in like England. I think it was like the last two or something like that.
I think things catching on fire has been sort of a theme in Portland lately. It's kind of
yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been happening a lot. Okay, so then Don's mix is it normally comes in this strange bottle with Nate's handwriting, at least as far as I've seen so far.
Pretty much.
That's a commercial bottle.
Yeah. So Nate, how'd you make it?
So it's essentially just making a standard simple syrup, which I used Demerara. And equal parts of water and sugar, and then cinnamon sticks. 3 cinnamon sticks is what it called for. And then an interesting thing I found in a specific recipe for it is you get all that to a good boil, let it simmer for about 2 minutes, turn it off, and then let it sit for 2 hours to just kind of steep, and then add 1 part of the simple syrup cinnamon to 2 parts of grapefruit juice. And afterwards, I found another recipe that said I should use white grapefruit juice, and I didn't, but that's why it's got this lovely brownish color. But it's absolutely delicious.
Yeah, white grapefruit juice would have been probably what he used, but that being said, I've always used red. So
okay, yeah. Well, and
I usually I do let the cinnamon sticks kind of sit there for a while. And any kind of maceration I always leave that out of recipes, and I shouldn't. But yeah, any kind of maceration I do with like woody or barky things, I like to leave them for some time, sometimes overnight.
Yeah.
But the Don's mix recipe that most people use comes from Jeff Beach Bomberry. And it's so he did his best to kind of piece together. He's one of these guys who spent his whole life chasing down tiki recipes. There's certain cocktail historians like David Wondrich and a few other Difford, and like some of these other guys that have been out, Simonson, who just all they do is run around chasing down cocktail history. And then I kind of read all the reports and I decide which one seems to work the best in my experience.
Well, one of the things I realized too after I made it is so many of Don's cocktails where it now says grapefruit juice, he probably intended the mix to be used And so the other night I made a Mai Tai, and I was like, Dawn's Mai Tai. And I was like, oh, this was totally supposed to have the mix and not just regular grapefruit juice, because it adds that level of complexity and the cinnamon to it.
Yeah, there's a simplicity in the Trader Vic Mai Tai that kind of usually I make that one, but definitely the Don's one has a little bit more kind of complex flavors. Well, you
Paul,
can kind of tell.
Our friend Paul is still watching. Paul Allen. I guess he's. I mean, I don't know if he's. You guys probably don't know who Paul Allen is. Anyhow, he's still watching, and he seems excited that we're having cinnamon grapefruit. I'm sort of interpreting this as Paul being excited about watching people do unwise things on YouTube. Yeah. So okay, well, let's talk a little bit. So there's a lot going on in this drink. First, rum is a oh yeah, falernum. Let's talk about falernum.
Oh yeah.
What is falernum?
So falernum is one of those things that can be a lot of things, but effectively it's a Caribbean spice liqueur. It's generally rum based. It usually has lime. It usually has ginger. Sometimes it has almonds. It can cloves. It can have it kind of. I feel like there were a lot of family recipes in colonial Barbados and other kind of parts of the British Caribbean Empire with that all had their own versions. And you can tell because they named it falernum that this was like a bunch of public school lads who knew their ancient like Apicius or whatever. So it's very very much like a.
Didn't Nate just flagellated himself with the mint? Is that normal?
Oh yeah. You want to express that oil.
Is that what you call it?
And generally, the twistier the mustache of the bartender, the more expressive the expression.
Oh boy, I think this is coming over to me now. I'm a little terrified. Okay, I did. Okay, so we have a couple of ingredients here to talk about. First,
I love you, Erik.
Oh, I love you too, everybody. Here we go.
Oh boy, it's been nice knowing you guys.
Yeah, it's the zombie. I mean, it is a lovely drink. Like, it is garnished with a fancy cherry. Not the fanciest of fancy cherries, because the fanciest of fancy cherries cost an enormous like $25 a jar. So I got the least fancy of the fancy cherries. There's a lime wheel. I mean, look at the lime wheel. Very cool. Let's give
that looks perfect. That looks spot on.
Oh, I mean, it's the mint is overpowering in the nose. Like you only smell the mint when you get your nose up there, probably because Nate whipped it. But so we have a lot. So since there's so much stuff going on in here, there was something I wanted to mention before. In the last drink, we had grapes, which are in the Coche Americano, which are absolutely solar. The Picatrix talks about grapes, associates them with the first face of Virgo, associates them with a recipe for the incense of Venus. And then there's tons and tons of spells in the Picatrix that use grapes in weird ways. So grapes are very, they're pretty heavily used in the occult arts. So if you want to do something with wine, wine is a great offering too for any sort of like ritual that you're summoning spirits or gods or demons or something like that. So that's interesting. So in this one and in the last drink, we had absinthe, which is wormwood, which is associated with Saturn in the Picatrix and Mars in the Picatrix. Anise, which is a Martian herb, and fennel, which is mercurial and is associated also with the Pleiades, the fixed stars.
And also the Dionysus and the Maenads.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, you wrote about that in your article. Yeah, so that's
well, and don't forget too a little bit of grenadine in there, so there's some pomegranates, so you get that kind of Persephone.
Grenadine is in the zombie. So yes, the pomegranate is associated with Persephone and the whole legend of Persephone. But also we've got the Angostura bitters, which has gentian, and then the falernum has ginger, which is solar, almond, which Agrippa associates with Jupiter because it is sweet and sharp, clove, which is solar, and allspice, which is a New World spice from the Caribbean and doesn't really have any associations in Agrippa or the Picatrix or anything, but you wrote about it a little bit. It's kind of sometimes used as a stand-in for some other spices like clove and stuff.
Clove,
but
clove
but
specifically.
it looks just like juniper berries.
Yeah, so I've always assumed it was juniper. I've heard it used, way back. Some person told me at some occult store that they tended to use it like they would use juniper, and to me, like, yeah, the clove significance is there too, but I always consider it closer to a juniper in terms of its characteristics.
Okay, everybody, please cross your fingers and pray for me a little bit. I'm about to taste the zombie. Oh boy. Whoa. Oh my God. What a I mean, it is booze forward. So I said before, like, the mint is on the nose. Like, you get your nose in there, the first thing you smell is the mint. When you get it into your mouth, there is no hiding the fact that this thing is filled with booze. It is a towering inferno of alcohol. Like, it is all alcohol. And
there's no saying no, officer. I haven't been drinking tonight after this one.
I don't even think I could complete that sentence after drinking this. But the other flavors, like, there's so many ingredients in this thing. Let's switch over back to Nate and the ingredients here so we can see the list. Like, there's so much stuff going on in this drink. And some of it kind of happens at once. Like, the pineapple from, you see that? Like, the pineapple is kind of there in a way. You get sort of a lot of the weird sort of like sweet herbal bitterness of the Angostura and probably falernum. I don't even know what all the flavors are. And then kind of near the end, you get this like almost like a savior note of cherry that kind of comes in, and it's sort of like, hey, we're here. Don't worry, you will probably live through this beverage.
And oddly enough, that's probably the absinthe, which would be the death knell.
Oh, yeah. But it was, or it could be I was thinking it might be the grenadine.
It's probably the combination of the two, but.
Yeah, Nate, what grenadine did we get? Oh, sorry.
Liquid Alchemist grenadine.
Liquid Alchemist.
Yeah. I felt that it was appropriate for this show, so that's.
Yeah, I actually know Liquid Alchemist. I forget his name, but we were.
He's based in California.
Yep. Yeah, he used to come into my when I worked at a bar out here called Seymour's. He and I got to know each other.
There we go.
Oh, cool. Well, that's
shout out if you're watching.
Liquid Alchemist is
Sorry, forget your name.
You probably should have taken. If you had gotten that name first, you would have been Liquid Alchemist instead of Cryptic Cocktails.
Yeah. Oh my God. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
I just had a second sip and it was the same experience.
Yeah. It gets better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm already losing my ability to speak. I'm assuming Paul says, I want one, maybe two.
Well, it's funny he says, I want one, maybe two, because they used to put on the menu, limit 2 per customer.
Yeah.
And that was a complete marketing gimmick. It was also a smart idea.
Yeah, I talked to one of the former bartenders from the Alibi, which may be the oldest or second oldest tiki bar now in the United States. And she said that the strict policy of the bar was after 2, you didn't get any more drinks there.
I used to sing karaoke there.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh my God. It just like, it doesn't really, it gets better.
Or you just get drunk enough you don't notice it.
Okay, I think finally, now let's talk a little bit about like the fact that this is a Halloween show. Kevin, what are you dressed as?
I guess this is my kind of Ertzat's Magnum PI look. Yeah,
your Magnum PI.
So I used to do this thing. I worked at a bar in Boston for many years. It was kind of like a divey oyster bar, and we didn't do a lot of fancy drinks there, but we tried. And so I started this thing. Our boss said we could only be clean shaven, or we could grow a beard out on our days off. Like, you ever have time enough to grow a beard on your day off? So he said mustaches were okay because he thought it was really silly looking. So I was like, well, okay, guys, let's all do mustaches for May. So we started doing Mustache May, and then everybody would have a mustache, and people would walk in the bar, and we all we had a lot of like ladies working there too, but all the guys were still more or less my same physique and looked similar to me. And so people would walk in and wouldn't know which one of us was which, and it was really hilarious. And so they used to give me they used to be Selleck, so they'd be like, "Hey, what's up, Selleck?" And it kind of became my nickname. And the place is called the Salty Dog, so I was Salty Selleck. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, everybody knows it. It's been around for like 50 years now. So that's how the mustache thing started. So I actually had a dog named Higgins, which was so
perfect
Magnum PI thing. Yeah, I didn't have was a TC or anybody around, but we had a Higgins, and then so it's kind of just been one of my go-to. I don't have a Halloween costume. Oh crap, I do have a wig, spats, and a tank top in there for to be Jack Burton, but I thought that would be a little too much.
Paul says that he does like your mustache. He appreciates your mustache.
Thank you. I might keep it for a little while because I'm single.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a girlfriend, I can't keep this mustache.
Well, just oh God, I almost said something that I shouldn't say out loud, and I'm going to blame it on the zombie, even though I've only had like 3 sips of the damn thing.
Well, now you have to say it.
Well, I was going to say you could just rename it your Lady Tickler.
Yeah, exactly. 3 mustache rides.
Yeah, well, that's gross.
Well, one thing with this drink that people do with drinks with mint, I want to point out for anybody who's listening, please don't ever mash the mint into the bottom of the glass, because it's there for aromatics. As you were
the mojito?
It's what?
What about
the mojito? There is a little bit of mint in the drink because the mint's supposed to be the oils of the mint are supposed to be into the drink.
Okay.
But with something like this, it's like you're just supposed to get the aromatics.
So what you're saying is Nate did a good job.
You're saying you did. I'm saying you're doing great with it. Yeah, you're not doing the. One of the guys I used to work with used to, when you'd see people just smashing the mint, he'd be like, "Oh, thanks for finishing the drink for me. I forgot to do that."
I'm gonna switch over to Nate again now because I want to hear his thoughts on this harrowing experience.
So I've been practicing all week long, making my own versions at my house, just to build up my tolerance so that I could have this after several other cocktails. And the one thing I would say is my personal preference is not to use 151. The thing I was using was Erik 100 proof rum, and I think that it added a little extra funk to it, and also a little bit less booze, because I'm about, I don't know, 4 sips ahead of Erik maybe, and I would say I'm nice, warm, and fuzzy. I feel good and toasty. One more and I would definitely be done at the bar and probably calling an Uber. So I think it's a perfect cocktail for Halloween, given not only the name but the fact that you may become the Walking Dead after drinking it. So cheers.
I want to point out this was actually one of the most famous drinks in the world for a long time. And the funny thing is, when this drink came out, zombies weren't really a thing. It wasn't like we had Greg Nicotero and Savini and George Romero and everybody back in the 1940s. There were maybe like White Zombie or I Walk with a Zombie or something like that might have been like popular, but the zombie certainly wasn't like this was the zombie in popular culture before the idea of the modern zombie ever was.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hold on. I mean, there's a lot of zombie lore that is not, the dead person climbing out of the grave and sort of stuff. I mean, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I mean, I feel like I was just about to say something really intelligent, but I'm not sure that I can do that anymore.
I have a quote from Don Beach that I wrote down because I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, so I'm ready for this.
This was the motto for his motto, his like life's motto. Of all of life's pleasures, deeply drink. On all life's worries, give a wink. It's much, much later than you think. A little bit of bar wisdom, kind of pithy.
That is good. Okay, let's. I'm gonna look over my notes. Okay, so we talked grenadine, we talked falernum, we talked everything. Actually, we covered pretty much everything.
Did you go
So
to rum?
did I? Oh well, I didn't talk about rum. Rum is a really interesting one because okay. I mean, just sort of the basics of rum. Rum is made typically from molasses, which is a waste product of sugar production.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the good old days, most rum was actually made kind of like in New England along the Atlantic coast because it was sort of like shipped up there. And
we made really bad rum.
Did we? We weren't around back then.
Well,
I'm
from a town called Weymouth, Massachusetts, and we were known as one of the rum capitals. And apparently our rum was notoriously bad.
Well,
so then we became the shoe capital of the world.
I lived in Medford, Oregon for a while, and Medford, Oregon, I don't believe is named after Medford, Massachusetts, but it's
Meffa.
Meffa.
If you're in Massachusetts, Meffa,
Massachusetts. But Medford, I'm not going to say Meffa.
No, it does.
Medford, Massachusetts was famous for the old Medford distillery, which made tons and tons of rum. But I don't remember reading that it was known as bad rum. I think it was just sort of rum-ish rum.
It wasn't bad rum. It wasn't like Screech from up in Newfoundland that was like notoriously bad.
Yeah.
Have you ever had Screech?
Nope. I don't know that I've ever even met anybody from Newfoundland.
I went there when I was like 19. I just had an adventure and drove. I was between jobs and I just drove north as far as I could go, northeast.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had some adventures when I was 19 also, but that was so long ago that nobody can remember them anymore.
Yeah, I feel the same way, yeah. And they're known for having really bad rum that only locals drank. But no, I don't know. It wasn't that the rum was bad in New England. It just didn't have the same cachet as like the rum that was coming from the Caribbean.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't rum coming from the Caribbean at the time. Rum in the Caribbean was mostly something that was just served to like plantation slaves or something of that nature because it was.
Well, I was the Spanish though. There wasn't rum from the British colonies. The Spanish, I believe, were making.
Spanish. Maybe there was. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe the Spanish were making
rum a long, long time ago. Maybe not when I was 19, but probably still a while.
Oh yeah, no, New England was all the production for the British. But I think the Spanish made their own rum there.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, yeah.
Well,
and there were British royal rums too. Okay. That still exist to this day.
That makes sense.
But yeah, you're right. Almost all the ingredients. It was like that what Adam Smith like,
the triangle of hell and evil.
Yeah. The triangle of colonial exploitation.
That's a dark subject.
We can dodge it off to the side though. I'd like to talk. So one of the things I find so spiritual and occultish about rum is that so much of it is offered as a tribute to Haitian Loa and their spirits. And so a lot of the Haitian rums are specifically used for certain spirits, certain Loa, because that's like now become their favorite. And so in some of the Haitian religious communities, when they're summoning a specific Loa, they have to use this certain kind of Haitian rum for it. And that's, I think, maybe where Don got the idea of the zombie with some of the early voodoo lore in the culture of that was like kind of the concept that he got the rum and this extremely heavy rum drink from. So that's and now I'm drunk. So
I'm like only a third through this thing, and I think I almost cried there for a second.
There's a spirits company called I think Lost Spirits, and the guy who started it just stopped the company as far as I know because he wanted to work on. He started the company just to learn more about how to make chemicals to make food taste a certain way, and he sold his properties for like $1 billion. This is what I've heard at least. But he was replicating what rums used to taste like 200 years ago. So he had a whole line of rums. And at the time, they were practically giving them away. And like we had a bunch at my old bar in Massachusetts, and they were really intense. And he was using like the real like dunder pits, like with banana peels and stuff to start the fermentation process to get the yeast. And
dunder pits, those are the people who fight Mum-Ra, right?
Yeah, I said the dunder pits. Yeah. Boy, the zombie's really kicking in, huh? But yeah, so it was funny. So these bottles are floating around, and now if you can find one, it's worth hundreds of dollars. But yeah, he was just like, no, I'm just done with spirits. I did everything I wanted to do with it and just moved on. But yeah, it was really interesting to taste like what something might have tasted like made in a pit in Jamaica, 200 years ago, before everybody started getting into actual production.
Yeah, I guess I would like to taste that and experience that.
If you find a bottle, let me know. I'll go in with you.
I'm not going to make any financial decisions at this moment because I have been drinking zombie.
That's fair.
Yeah, so actually in my notes, it's so funny. I actually wrote in my notes, rum, big in African diasporic religions. Let Nate talk about it. Good job, Nate.
Thanks.
Oh, so I do have another interesting thing that I remember from the rum history book that I read, which I would absolutely love to figure out how to experience. There is a colonial American, like a New England drink called Flip, which is not like our eggy white drink that we have now. It was basically like whatever their horrifying beer was, in a big wooden bucket with a whole bottle of their horrible, terrifying rum poured into it. And then they would take a poker of pig iron, and they'd heat it red hot, and they'd dunk it into the bucket until it and it should froth and boil and do all this sort of stuff. And then people would just dunk their mugs into the bucket and drink right out of it. And that sounds like the most amazing wintertime, possibly not hot, possibly lukewarm or kind of warm beverage. I really want to try it. I just need a bucket and some pig iron. And
just need like a flip ceremony.
Yeah, a flip ceremony I think would be an amazing thing to try. And if anybody wants to set that up, I will attend. I'll bring the bottle of rum. If
I'm ever in Portland, let's make it happen.
You aren't that far away.
I'm not that far. Once things return to some sort of sense of normalcy, I'm sure I'll be up there at some point, because I did live there for a couple of years and I love it up there, but I haven't been in probably over a decade.
All right, so let's get back to Halloween, because I'm curious as to Nate's costume. Nate, I have been wondering about this all night. What are you dressed as?
A homicidal maniac. They look like everyone else.
Oh, crap. Well, you ask questions and you get answers. Okay, well, so we have made 3 amazing drinks tonight. Kevin, meanwhile, has made 1.
Yes, but it was a big one. It was a big one.
How's it doing? Man, look at you being all responsible.
You know what? I'm trying these days. There we go. How about that?
Okay.
This was 2 drinks. I want to put it was 2 drinks.
Oh, this is only 1, it turns out.
Yeah, I was going. My friends were like, so you're going on a live stream and you're doing how many drinks? And I'm like, I will be doing 2 drinks.
Ooh, so what's your second drink going to be?
Well, I was going to do. So I have a few different things. I actually had a non-alcoholic mocktail in case anybody wanted to do one.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were going to do mocktails. I totally forgot about mocktails.
Well, I do have the specs, and I could put them online if somebody wants to have one for later.
Yeah, I was wondering. Actually, this is a question that would be good. Is there a general theory of mocktails? Like,
yes,
when you approach creating a mocktail, like let's say you want to make a mocktail gin and tonic or a mocktail. I don't know what you want to make a mocktail of, but how do you replace the flavors? Like, what do you go for? How do you start?
There's two ways of thinking with that. One is sugar and citrus, because everybody loves it, and then that's kind of like the easy one. Especially if there's somebody on the fence where you just want to put something in their hand, you can always give them like heavy lime, heavy sugar, heavy mint, heavy cilantro, heavy basil, something like that. Something that's just going to kind of like stimulate the senses. But when I actually made my own sort of glycerin bitters. This one's corn flour and chamomile. And so if I'm making like a sophisticated, like for somebody who, let's say, wants a real cocktail with like some real flavor, I would use something like this. So I'm going to have this is super bitter, super floral. And when you add it in, like you can even make a non-alcoholic like martini with it. If you do, a couple teaspoons of that, throw in maybe like a little bit of ice and stir it around, pour it in a martini glass, throw an olive in it, and it tastes like you're drinking a really intense herbal drink. So that's kind of my philosophy, is use grown up complicated flavors. So like I did an herbal lemonade that, you know, that sounds super basic, but I used tarragon. So like instead of just using mint or basil, which is what most people would use, by using something a little bit more complicated and a little bit more kind of unusual, like a tarragon, or I mean, obviously you can do like rosemary and thyme are great, but any kind of unusual, less common herb is really fantastic because it makes it feel like you're not drinking a kiddie drink.
Okay, I guess that's a pretty good approach. Thank you.
Yeah. I also find that,
but
like,
what about but like, let's say, all right, I have a story. This is a sad story of a time many years ago. I was entertaining some friends. I was entertaining one friend and trying to impress some of her friends. So I was like, oh man, I'm pretty good at making martinis, you know, the easiest of cocktails. So I was like, I'm going to make martinis. So actually these martini glasses that we're drinking tonight, I got specifically for that occasion. So I'm like, yes, this is going to be great. I'm perfect at martinis. So they show up and they're like, oh no, we're not drinking. So I was like, what? Shit, I'm not ready for this. And so I was thinking about like, what the hell does martini even taste like? Like, the main flavor in a martini is usually kind of like the cold booze flavor and then like the juniper flavor. And I was like, okay, I will make you really cold water. I think I served them ice water in martini glasses. What could I have done instead? Like, how do you save a situation like that?
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. You know, and you know what everybody wants is like, they want, you know, a lot of people do just drink, like when they drink a martini, they drink just straight vodka, even not even gin. So it's like, what do you substitute with that? I think things like if you have something like a chamomile, that's kind of a nice substitute. If you have something like a tea, maybe like a strong tea, if you boil it down pretty hard, you can make yourself like a nice bitter syrup with that. Mm-hmm. I've looked through my pantry pretty hard for things at certain points. If you have like lemongrass kicking around, that's a good one. You can kind of cook that down into a water, make a syrup out of that. But at some point, you're going to have to substitute some sugar. You know, unless you want to go, you either have to go like super strong herbal, or you have to do sugar, because there's really no other way to make it taste like anything.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I did top off a little vermouth, so you're not drinking alone.
Okay, thanks.
One of the things I would think is important about mocktails is the basic thing is you should just avoid drinking with anybody that doesn't drink, and that way you don't have to make mocktails. Yeah, unless they're one of those people that's just that, like, you know. Oh, you know what's really good is like if you keep some bitters around, because even though there is alcohol in there, you know, you don't want to give that to your pregnant person or a person with has religious objections to drinking, obviously, but.
Paul, who has stuck with us, thank you, Paul. You are my favorite viewer ever. Paul. I think you might be the only one who's been here the entire time, but I love the fact that you are sending us messages. He suggests Earl Grey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that'd be a good one.
And I think Peugeot's bitters actually use a glycerin base instead of alcohol base, and so that's when you could use it. Won't have an alcohol content to it. Fees. I'm sorry. Is it Fees? Yeah. Yeah.
That's F.
Yeah, or you can make your own. If anybody wants to order some, I actually thought about starting a cottage industry with that. I have food grade glycerin and like all the herbs, but it's just so complicated to do, you know. I don't know if I want that much work for $10 for a bottle or something, you know.
Well, I'm always worried with glycerin base that it's just not going to have as much of a shelf life. So
this one's been around for about a year. So I made this, I would say probably midsummer. So this is probably over a year. So it's still holding strong. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's not going to have like a 2-year shelf life.
I mean, glycerin lasts pretty long though, doesn't it?
Yeah. As long as you don't put things in there that are going to spoil.
Wait, Paul just said the Rochester connection. Is that a secret activation phrase, or were we talking about something?
Maybe now.
Oh, are you okay, Kevin? Did you get activated?
I must kill the queen. Must kill the queen.
Paul, what is the Rochester connection? Can you put it in the chat? I know that there's a delay and a slow mode and stuff, but Nate, I have a question. Is there a way, can I get like a little taster of the falernum syrup? Like I kind of want to know what that stuff tastes like. Maybe here.
I don't have a clean glass.
Put a dash.
That's gonna be.
Oh boy, that never mind. That already has a flavor in it.
Yeah, let's rinse it with some 151.
Oh God, thank you. That sounds like a fucking wonderful idea. When Nate, I have to say, like, I'm really, really grateful that bartender Nate helped me out with this. This is the most technically complicated live stream or online thing I've ever done. Like, there's, multiple cameras. I'm using open broadcasting system. There's all this Zoom stuff. Kevin, you were there.
Yeah, I was. I all of a sudden had a Mercury retrograde-esque complete technological breakdown.
Yeah. I mean, luckily we didn't have a technical breakdown. I'm using my, so everything is working out really, really well on this end. Paul says Fee Brothers is made where he lives or where he is on Portland Avenue. So there's the Rochester connection. Portland, Rochester,
Rochester, New York.
Well, one Rochester. I know that I'm. Paul, are you in like Rochester, New York, or are you in the original Rochester? Okay, here we go. This is so falernum. Falernum is one of the ingredients in. Is it in the? It's in the zombie, right? Yeah. And this isn't like a strong booze. It's like 11% alcohol, so it's a liqueur. And it's some sort of syrup that's I think is very sweet, but also has like weird, funky herbal flavors. I'm just really curious as to what it tastes like on its own. So,
yeah, have fun with that.
It smells really good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Wow, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's very, very sweet. It is a syrup. Paul just says rock, R-O-C, which that clarifies stuff a lot. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, like it's very herbal. That's interesting. Oh, that'd be good in coffee.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a little pick me up, yeah. You get an iced coffee.
I was saying it's kind of one of the it's like a classic tiki flavor, so you kind of always, that's the funkiness that I usually detect in most tiki cocktails is the falernum.
Yeah, you can tell a good tiki bar by their falernum. If their drinks are good, their falernum's probably pretty good.
Yeah, in Oregon we have a Oregon Liquor Control Commission, and they have a $20 bottle of the Velvet Falernum, the John D. Taylor's, and then they have like a $60 bottle of something else, and that's the only two you're permitted to get at liquor stores in Oregon. Because of the racket.
Yeah, the Taylor's is interesting because it doesn't have all the clove in it. It's kind of more of a almond based, I think. I haven't used the Taylor's in a while, but I used to make a corn and oil every once in a while.
Yeah.
That's a drink you don't see much these days, but
no, there's a few bars in Portland that have picked it up and started carrying it again, but
it's one of those things that goes like it becomes really popular and then it goes away and you don't see it for. It's like the Jungle Bird, or I'm trying to think of some of these other cocktails that like all of a sudden they have this huge moment and everybody forgets about them, and then like the new string of bartenders comes along. Like I've been doing this for about 17 years, so it's like I've seen all these trends kind of come and go. Like everybody uses shrubs, and then nobody uses shrubs, and then 3 years again, oh, everybody, shrubs are the new hot thing, everything has a cycle.
Okay, Paul tried to clarify by saying the 585, which I think is isn't that like an Ariana Grande song or something of that nature? I'm not sure what's going on, but I think 585 is an area code probably in New York. Thank you, Paul. Well, I think we've had our beverages. I can hear my roommate is downstairs yelling at the TV, so it's probably.
Well, I had to turn a fan on in here because it got like 1,000 degrees in this town already all of a sudden.
Oh yeah.
Somebody next door having a Sublime party.
Kevin, thank you so much for arranging this and for helping us put together these cocktails. I'm really dreading the moment where Nate and I have to like try to stand up, which is going to happen pretty soon.
I mean, I managed to get an Irish tan with you guys here too. So,
but I mean, like, happy Halloween, Kevin.
Yeah, to you too. This was a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this, and I've never done a live stream, so this is kind of a, scratch it off the list.
My third, and it is it's difficult. Like, I am only halfway certain that, as far as I know, Paul saw us for sure.
Well, for the next, we'll get the next one. What's the next seasonal holiday? We'll do like a Beltane or Umbolc. I
haven't even finished my zombie, and I already feel like I'm sort of like, well, it's irresponsible to be on the computer anymore. Paul says it was fun, and he'll hit up Kevin for oysters next time he's in the desert.
Please do. You get them overnight. They're unbelievable.
Oh man, I really enjoy oysters. It's been a while for me. But anyhow, so everybody, enjoy your Halloween cocktails. Try to never drink a zombie. I don't know that it's safe.
No, definitely drink zombies. Don't drink more than 2.
I don't know that we can listen to Nate at all about this. Okay, maybe we can. Nate, do you have any?
That's one of those drinks. That's one of those drinks I have to go to a bar to get, because there's no way I can keep that many ingredients at my house, because it's just asking for trouble.
Yeah. Oh yeah, completely.
So
like literally, like I keep like vermouth and Campari here, maybe, because if I leave like 5 bottles of rum around, I'm going to be,
yeah,
nothing good is going to come from that.
Unfortunately, I'm probably going to have several drunk nights after this because of all the ingredients I now have available. But
oh yeah, me too. I mean, I have like that's a crate full of liquor down there.
I don't know if you can get it with Oregon, but the OFTD from Plantation is a really good substitute for the 151 if you ever want to switch it up.
What I tried to recommend.
Yeah. Well, in 2 years,
I listened to some things that you recommended, just not all of them, or most of them. Anyhow, Nate, you have any final words for our Halloween live stream listeners?
I would just say happy Samhain and cheers. Happy Halloween.
I mean, same here. That's kind of what I have. I'm gonna let's howl us out a little bit. Happy Halloween, everybody. Oh wait, God damn it, I totally so many buttons to click. End. Okay. Oh.